Okay, so this is why I love my job. Welcome to Tell Us Like It Is, and I'll elaborate on that. I love my job because I get to chat with some fantastic people. Today is certainly no exception. My problem is, how do I introduce her? Beauty queen? Nah, not only that. Someone who has left a mark on the world of fashion and style? Not good enough. Someone who does loads and loads and loads of good work and charity? Yeah, maybe I'm getting there. I think I'd like to qualify you.
Don't let me stop you, Brian. Please, just roll with it. Go on.
I don't want to be too
I'm
kind
intrigued.
I don't want to be too kind to you, Diana. It's going to go to your head. So let me just cut to the chase, okay? So here's a lady who I believe is very, very special for many reasons, actually. And the biggest of them being she's a dear friend of mine.
Absolutely. That's the best way.
Thank you so much, Diana, for getting on to the show.
Pleasure.
The show, as you're probably aware, is about getting to know the people behind the name, the people behind the celebrity status, the people behind the personality.
Tell us like it is. I love the name. It's so smart.
Thank you so much. That's sweet.
Absolutely. And it's Brian's brains. Tell us like it is. No, I love it. I really love it. Very
so as you can see, this is a mutual admiration society.
Yeah.
I think I'm the bigger admirer. But so let's cut to the chase. Diana, we've known each other for a fair amount of time, and it's always intrigued me. Your life, it's been a while. It's been a huge while, and you've always intrigued me. I'm going to start pretty much at the beginning. So you come from Hyderabad, right? Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about
tell us
the early.
Love it.
A little bit about the early days, the early Diana.
Wow, I grew up in Hyderabad when Hyderabad was not what it is today. It's it was a small city, and my parents split up when I was 13 years old, and I started working from the time I was 14. I quit school and started working.
Wow.
Right, right until, I had a great childhood though. I think, your foundation gets set right up to 6 to 7 years of age. And that foundation that I had was really solid with all my values in place. And it was a great childhood. I was a complete tomboy. I had to ride bikes really hard and fast, climb trees better than the boys, everything. If I was going to play with the boys, my brother and his friends, I had to be as good.
Did you say you were?
So.
Or was?
You don't need to know that. I still get on a bike with my leg from behind. I can't do it the way I do, because I think somewhere I forgot that I was a girl. Then my parents split up and I started working. I started working when I was 14.
That's amazing.
And, people listen to that and they go, oh my God, your life was so difficult. But when you're going through it, you don't feel that. You're just dealing, you're just dealing with what cards you have, with what life has given you. And it's not as big a deal as when people look at it and go, oh my God, you've been through that.
So when you look at it now, in retrospect. Yeah. But do you feel when you look back that maybe there was a bit of growing up that you got cheated out of? I'm asking.
The only time I feel that, Brian, is when people talk about college days and what they experience, and I go, I wonder what that's like, what it's truly like. But then immediately, because I'm one of the most practical people that I know, I go, if I'd known what that was like, I wouldn't be where I am, and I wouldn't have had the experiences I've had. And if I were to go back and choose, I would still choose what I have.
You would?
Oh, I would, absolutely. Because it has shaped me into who I am. And I think I'm so rich in terms of information and experience only because of what I've experienced. To the point of where, I'll tell you something very private. When my dad passed away, just before he passed away, he died of a stroke. And he was in the hospital for a few months before that. And he couldn't move, but the doctor said that he couldn't even react, but he was reacting when I spoke with him. And as soon as he saw me, he started crying, he started weeping. And my father was very, very passionate and compassionate and sensitive and emotional extremely. So, he just looked there, he just lay there, stared at me, and he had tears rolling down his face. And I could see in his eyes that it was all the years, and all that regret. And I told him, and I really, really meant it, and he knows I meant it. I said, don't regret what, everything that we've gone through, because you feel bad about it. And you think that you have wronged us, but you didn't. To me, there are two things that are very important. One is whatever you do, even if you hurt somebody, it should not be done maliciously. If it's done out of innocence, then it's okay. If your intention should never be to harm someone, and that's what I told him. I said, as long your intentions were not to harm us, not you, not my mother's, so that's okay. We were just victims of circumstance, without playing emphasis on the word victims. And the second thing is, I said, had you all not made those decisions in life at that time, we wouldn't be where we are today. I wouldn't be where I am. I would probably be in Hyderabad. Not that it's a bad thing. I'd have been there, married with a couple of kids, and leading a very normal life, you know. But it's because of circumstances, and everything's a series of circumstances that makes us, you know, takes us to where we are. That's why I am where I am. I said, we haven't turned out that badly. The best foundation possible is what they gave us, because I hold on to my values like you know, that last straw.
I'm going to come back to that. I mean, you know.
See, don't get me talking, because then I'll go on and on and on.
No, that's
Okay.
fantastic. I think that's fantastic because, like I said at the top of the show, I mean, this chat's meant to kind of understand the lady behind the name, right?
Yeah.
So there you were at a really tender age of 14, exposed to working for your living, so to speak. That was still in Hyderabad, right?
Yes.
I see in you over the last X number of years that we've known each other, a very, very fiercely independent lady. Yeah.
Yes.
To say the very least.
Yes.
And I've always found that quite fascinating, actually. Would you kind of thank those years for being as independent as you are?
I would, to a large extent, but it's also, from the time I was a child, I wanted to take control. I remember I used to keep saying, I can't wait till I'm 18 so I can spread my wings and fly away. You know, literally, quote unquote, that's what I used to say. I wanted to experience the world. I wanted to fly and, you know, just absorb. And I was always independent. As a kid, I used to wash my uniform myself, and I used to charge my brother 50 paise to wash his uniform.
So you were a businesswoman back then?
I was a businesswoman back then. If only that business acumen still remained in me.
Who are you kidding? So at what age did you kind of decide to fly away from Hyderabad and get into Mumbai?
That's another funny story. I've got a lot of these funny stories.
Go for it.
I came here when I was 16 because my aunt lived in a hostel, and she was like our guardian, my cousin and myself. But I was this height from the time I was 12, right? And I always spoke well, and I carried myself well. So people didn't realize that I was actually 16, so I lied. And we said I was 22. Don't ask me why 22 came up, because my cousin, it was just ridiculous. Anyway, we said my cousin was 21, was actually 2 years older than me. She was 18, and I was 22. So we came and lived in a hostel, and I worked at the American Express Bank as a receptionist, saying I'm 22 years old, and I was actually 16 years old. I stayed here for about a year, and then I went back to Hyderabad, and I worked again because my cousin left. Eventually, I came back to Bombay. Now, the jobs I held, my first job was counter sales, and then I did reception work. My first job was reception at a hotel, telephone operating and reception. And then I did counter sales. I must have had in total about 20, 30 jobs. When I eventually moved to Bombay, I even sold Ittar in bulk in Crawford Market.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did. But the interesting one is when I came back again to Bombay when I was 18, because then my aunt had left from Bombay and my cousin had gone to Australia. So I came on my own, and there was a family friend who was supposed to meet me in Bombay. And I got off the station at 6:30 in the morning. I had 250 rupees in my pocket, and I called him up, and his name was Ruli. I remember I called him up, and he was somewhere near Bangalore. And he's like, I'm not there. I said, but I told you I was coming. And he's like, oh, I'm not there. So I went to my aunt's hostel, and it was 100 rupees a night to stay in the hostel. And they knew me, they recognized me.
Worth of sustenance with you.
Got it. What do I do after that? I don't have a job, I don't have money. I quit a very good job in Hyderabad. My boss told me, he said, what is it? Is it the money, the salary? I'll double your salary, because I worked very hard and very smart. And I said, no, I've learned everything. I just want more. You know, I want to experience. I want to grow. I could never put my finger on what I wanted. I was not really ambitious. I just wanted to be excellent at whatever I did and I wanted more once I've learned everything. So 2 nights in the hostel, and then I had $50 with me, and I said, okay, I need a place to stay. So I went, and this was the Working Women's Hostel at Sutton Docks. So I went from door to door knocking, looking for accommodation, for paying guest accommodation. From the afternoon, the sunset, I didn't realize, and because Bombay is so, you have so many paying guests over here that it's not a big deal. Charmaine would have, I know, opened the doors, and he's got the most beautiful, gorgeous wife, who my absolute, hi Charmaine. Yeah.
Okay, so you put paid to my mind. Going back to where you were.
So I went knocking from door to door looking for accommodation. Here's the funny thing. If anybody does not believe in God or divine intervention, there's so many things I can tell them that will just blow their mind away and make them rethink. One place to another, some people told me, why don't you try this place? I hear they have paying guest accommodation. And about 5 places down the line, by the time I reached this place, I didn't realize when it got dark, and I knocked on the door, and this lady opened the door, and I heard the news. I don't know if it still happens, Brian, but the English news follows the Hindi news on Doordarshan at the time, right? And that meant it was after 9:30 in the night, because I think the English news started at 9:30. And so this elderly lady opened the door, and I said, I'm sorry, I guess it's late, but I'm looking for accommodation, paying guest accommodation. I was told that you keep paying guest. And then I heard the news, and I'm like, I'm sorry, is that the English news? And she said, yes. And she said, what is a girl like you, so young, doing out in the streets, knocking on doors at this time? And I showed her my watch. I've got goosebumps just remembering it every time.
This is crazy.
My watch stopped at 7:30 in the evening. It stopped at 7:30, and I showed it to her. I said, I'm really sorry, I'm knocking on your door so late in the night. She said, you know what, my child, God has sent you to me. Come in. I have stopped keeping paying guests for over 3 years now. And I went in, and she said, you don't have a job. I explained my situation to her. She said, just bring your clothes and come. And you can go and look for a job from tomorrow. We will talk money after that. She was a Pakistani lady, and her husband was a Brit. And they took me in, and I stayed with them for over a year. I went and looked for a job, and in 2 days I got a job. That was never an issue. But that experience, So that my life has been full of episodes and sequences like that, So if anybody, I really feel if anybody doubts that there is a guiding hand that actually holds you.
No, I'm actually a great believer in that.
Yeah.
I'm a great believer. I always say that, if the intent is right and it's coming from the right place, the universe will conspire
to help you achieve it.
To help you achieve it.
Absolutely.
Along with the good forces that you just mentioned, call him God.
God and energy. Yeah.
No, absolutely. A big believer. And I think it's pretty evident. It is really pretty evident for all to see. Oh, this is great. Okay. So here you are in Mumbai.
Yes.
Okay. With a mind full of ideas.
No ideas.
Oh, no ideas.
No ideas. Honestly, I might come across like somebody who knows what she wants and, but I had no ideas. All I knew is I need a job. I took it each day as it came. One thing I realized is when you are young, you don't have fear.
Right.
And that is our biggest weakness as we get older. Because we weigh and then we think we're going to lose this. When you've got nothing to lose, you just go for it.
Right.
And it's like what 50 Cent said, and I completely adopt that line. Where I come from, there is no plan B. And that is why I have come so far. So I just said, okay, I need a job. So I registered at the placement agencies and did interviews and got jobs. And I was never ambitious, like I want to do this, I want to be that. Beauty pageants were the last things on my mind. It was absolutely the last in my mind.
I can remember you from way before the beauty pageant.
Right,
exactly. You were a young working manager when we first met.
With XXL shirts and just, so those were good times. Those were really good times. So I worked one job after the other, and I think what got me to the final job just before I went to Miss India, which led me to going, was for some time I spent a couple of years in Bangalore and I organized events. That's another crazy story, but we leave that for another time. I went to a real estate agent looking to rent an apartment for my aunt, and he's like, oh, you look like a model. Are you interested in modeling?
Is that how it started?
That's how it started. But it didn't really stop there, because he took me to this modeling agency, which you know Nath. So
Sure.
so Nath was running Encore. And then I got on so well with them that I joined their company and I started working in organizing events. And with that experience, when I came back to Bombay, there was BMG Crescendo, and I told Suresh, who was heading it then, I said, I had a hard sell because he didn't want to employ me. I think he thought, who is this girl who's just come out of nowhere, torn shoes. I had my pink canvas shoes and they had holes in them. So I had a friend, Michelle Mendonça.
I remember.
You remember, right?
Yeah.
So I was staying with her, and I took her pink checkered shirt, and I wore that, and I took this crocheted tablecloth, and I cut the flowers out, and I stitched them all over so it would cover the holes in my pink canvas shoes. And I went for my interview like that. Wow. And I just pushed, and I told Suresh, I said, look, you've got a choice. You either 3 months, you pay me your basic salary, and I will prove myself. If I don't prove myself, it's a quits. If I prove myself, you double my salary, right? And that's how I got into managing an Ida and Menards.
So you started making offers people couldn't refuse.
Couldn't refuse. And that's how we met.
Yeah.
You know,
You were this overly efficient manager. I can clearly remember.
You have to be. They were wonderful girls to manage, but then I had a band as well. I managed Mantra, and then I had Piyush Soni. And it's difficult because you've got to strike a balance. Being a woman helped because I could think like a woman and be ready for everything that they might need before they even thought about it. Organizing events helped because you know what's coming up next,
right.
And PR and interacting with people really helped me. It helped me prepare.
You obviously have
well.
a flair, for how should I say, striking up relationships and enduring relationships.
Yes.
I suppose because you're genuine, you come across as genuine.
The good thing is also, I really feel we attract like-minded people.
That's right.
You know, and you kind of maintain a bond with people who are similar. It's like I would meet you after 5 years, 7 years, and we just pick up from where we left off.
Yeah.
Same thing with Mena. They're people like that. And I think based on your energy, and when we say energy, people think, oh my God, it sounds so hoity-toity or flair, like deep. But it's not. You could call it energy, you could call it vibe, you could call it a feel.
Sure.
Whatever your feel is, you will attract that kind of people as well.
Either which way. I mean, positive or negative, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, one has seen the other side work as well, unfortunately. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your value system. I mean, things that really drive you. I mean, values that really drive you. Say a piece.
There are two things about my values. One is I was a die-hard romantic. Die-hard. I grew up, by the time I was 11 years old, I'd read every book in the library, including Mills and Boons and James Hadley Chase and everything, right? And to me, it was you get married, you live happily ever after, you make the effort, you make it work, there's no such thing as divorce. And then my parents split up. And I will never forget, every night for years together, I would tell myself that not all marriages end like this. Because I needed to believe. And I had the practicality always to separate the two. That was one thing that I hung on to, really hard and fast. And the other is I used to go to church every day. I was brought up with these very strong Christian values. And the biggest one is to treat people the way you'd like to be treated. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Sure. That is basically the crux of my philosophy in life. I think the best thing about coming from a middle-class family is our Indian middle-class values cannot be beaten. Right. They're rock solid. They make your foundation, and no matter where you go in life, if you hold on to that, and because I left home, unlike most girls, as they're growing up, they have their parents to fall back on, they have a home to fall back on, they have, someone there to protect and guide them. I didn't. So the values that I was taught, I set that up like a steel fortress around me, which kind of made me, I understand, it kind of made me a little distant from a lot of people where they couldn't cross a line. And that was very deliberate because first thing, you're a girl and you're young, you're decent looking. I didn't know that I was good looking. Genuinely, I didn't at all. In fact, I had a complex about my looks growing up and my height.
Again.
No, I swear to God. I swear to you. Because I grew up in a family where my aunts had green eyes and light skin. You know what that it was in India. I mean, to a huge extent, it still is. Look at the fairness creams we have and you'll know, what it's about. So I was literally the one with the silky hair. we would be categorized. My one cousin was good looking, the other one was the one who was good in school, and I was the one with the silky hair. So actually I was called a skinny black bitch with silky hair. They were upset with me, but hey. But that worked well for me. It worked really well for me, because when I went to pageants, the Miss India and the Miss World, I was free. I didn't know which was my better profile. I didn't know, okay, you're not supposed to use your facial expression so much. You use your hand. It was like, this is me, you know, and it helped. But to get back to the values that you asked me about, so I had my values around me like a fortress, and it was good in a way, it was bad in a way, but the good really took over. The bad thing is it made me come across as distant and aloof, and also because I'm articulate, and I've not always been so articulate, but I was always fairly articulate. Sure. So it kept people at a distance, but it protected me because it gave this whole don't come near me, don't mess with me, and it protected me. It helped me through, so I didn't go, you know, I didn't run amok.
Conversely,
Yeah.
is there you know, any particular area or lack of value that really upsets you? I mean, is there something that when you see it kind of riles you up or disgusts you?
When you say that, there's just one word that comes to my mind: hypocrisy.
Okay.
I cannot deal with it. I've got about 2-3 things that are, I'd say, my pet peeves. I have grown to be very confrontational, when not aggressively so, but I will not sidestep an issue. I will not sit on a fence, and I don't like people doing that, because to me, you don't have to be as confrontational as me, but if you don't deal with something and you sweep it under the carpet, I think that creates
It could fester.
It does, right? It builds up and can fester, and it's a bit of a cowardly thing to do. Hypocrisy I don't like, because you cannot trust them. My most important values are trust and respect. You know,
So that's what I was hunting down.
that's
Trust
what
and
it is.
respect.
Trust and respect. I think even if you fall in love with someone, or any relationship you have with people, if it has to be based on trust and respect, because if I do not respect someone, I sure as hell will not love them.
Yeah.
Because
Sure.
it's very important, right?
Right.
And if you can't trust someone, what is the point?
Yeah.
You know, it's the foundation of everything. I can leave my life in my friend's hands. I know it's safe, and they can do that with me. You know, that's the kind of relationship
Do you
I have
trust
with people.
easily, or does it take you a while?
I used to, and I got badly hurt many times. And now, as much as I say, you know, guilty till proven innocent where my trust is concerned, I'm not. I'm a sucker for it. I kind of trust, and life's experiences, we have to be very careful. It can make us very jaded, especially with how much we experience in life when you're so exposed in life. And you can tend to protect yourself and not trust enough. And you shouldn't do that, you know. It's okay you get hurt. You trust again.
You still
but
love
just be a
feeling
little
the
bit.
wind in your face?
Yeah,
I mean,
you know,
the feeling of...
ships weren't built to lie in the harbor.
Right.
You know, we
Right.
were made to be out there and experience. That's all life is. It's a whole sequence of experiences that we have. It's a sequence of nows. It's a series of nows.
Is there a wish list? Is there a, you know, still some stuff? Sorry. Is there still some stuff that you aspire to achieve, or
Oh my God,
places
absolutely.
you aspire to go to?
There's the deeper, bigger wish list, and then there's the, you know, the other wish list,
Yeah.
which is just, you know,
A fun wish.
definitely places to experience and stuff. But I'd say the deeper ones would be, I would love to get married. I would love to have children, because I have been a mother from the time I was 8 years old. You know, I would look after all my aunt's kids, and I literally from the time they were babies. My mother instinct
How
is very
long is
strong.
the queue? How long is the queue?
You'd be surprised. There is hardly any queue, because it's really about quality as opposed to quantity,
Yeah, I
right?
suppose so, yeah.
Um,
My gosh, there's one lucky guy out there who doesn't know.
there
Doesn't
is,
know.
there
Yeah, he
is,
doesn't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm the lucky one. That's how I look at it. I would be the lucky one. Only then will I marry him.
You deserve the best.
So,
What can I
thank
say?
you.
You really do.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I mean, so we've spoken about, you know, your aspirations and what you professionally. Is there something that you'd like to kind of achieve
Yes.
soon enough?
Yes. My book has been done, right? I spent a
Let's
lot
talk
of
about that.
time.
Let's spend a little. Because
Yeah.
I know what drives you, and I'm sure. I don't want to kind of speak on your behalf, but I'm sure that must have consumed you.
You have no idea how, Brian. Yeah, you actually can, because you've seen how I work, right? There is no 9 to 5, there is no stopping. And with my book, it just completely took over my whole life. Because it's a book on grooming for women,
right.
And it's called A Beautiful Truth, The Art of Grooming for Women. All my experience over the last 15 years of working with the world's best, be it in hair, skin, makeup, around the world, right? All of that experience, and I'm someone, as you know, if I'm not talking, I am listening and I'm absorbing, and that's the biggest thing that we need to do. We need to absorb and listen. And I did that, and I absorbed so much that I started writing it, and I didn't expect the book to turn out as big as it did. And it just took a life of its own. And then I researched and researched further, double-checking all my information with professionals as well. And it took me 3.5 years. I wrote, researched it, I worked with my editor, every single word that had to be changed, we worked together, and I published it myself.
Must be a great feeling, Dan.
It was the most amazing experience. It was the next best thing that I'd done since winning Miss World. It was the biggest thing for me after Miss World. And the next step is I'm working on another book now. I'm just about to start working on it, which is specifically, that one was grooming for all women, right from 16 to 60, 70, every aspect of grooming. And this one, in very detail, it was like an encyclopedia. This one is specifically for beauty queens, those going for, I hate the term beauty queens, but yeah, it expresses what I want to say.
Women
those
of
going, well, I think we're all women of substance, but this is for girls going for beauty pageants and how to prepare and, more specific for that. So that's the one that I'm about to do
working
now.
on at the moment.
Yeah, that's what I'm working on.
Interesting. Any favorites in your list of, let's say, films or books?
Oh, very diverse. Films, books. Books, the first one is Conversations with God. I absolutely love that book. Then there's The Alchemist. And I'm a person who was very black and white. I did not know shades of gray, and which is not a good thing, right? Because life has shades of gray as well. And this has nothing to do with Shades of Grey, the book.
I'm sure.
But this is, I read My Sister's Keeper. And that book, there is no right or wrong, is what you realize when you read that book by Jodi Picoult. So these are books that have had huge impacts on me.
Films?
Films, very diverse, right down from Fight Club and Reservoir Dogs,
right,
to Pretty Woman and One Fine Day and Finding Nemo. Transformers,
right,
and one of my favorites is, if I can remember the name.
Love stories?
Yeah.
You seem like a sucker for.
I am. I'm
for
such a
good
sucker
romance.
for it. Absolutely.
Yeah. That comes across. Are there any people that have inspired you? People whose lives have kind of got you thinking? I don't want to sound dramatic, okay, but I know for sure, when I look at certain people, I'm a sucker for reading biographies or autobiographies.
Right.
And I love getting into, like we are today, I love getting into the person behind the personality,
Sure.
right? And reading autobiographies.
Beyond the
and
facade.
biographies. Yeah, beyond
Absolutely.
the facade. Kind of leads you into interesting spaces.
Yeah.
And there are people that I kind of look up to or learn from, immensely. Anyone that you'd like to point out whom you've drawn in, even from your real life? It could be from people around you.
It reminds me, as soon as I won Miss World, I used to get this question all the time, going, who is your role model? That quote unquote, that's a very, journalist question that we get. And I used to feel bad. I used to feel like I am inadequate because I didn't have a role model. And then I thought, wait a minute, I don't have to have a role model, because you look at it, there is no one particular person who is ideal, who's got everything that you want. I mean, I look at an Oprah Winfrey, and I look at her struggles and her achievements, and the business acumen that she's got, and how much she's achieved, how she's paved the way. What a feat. So I look at her, and that's what I love about, how much she's contributed as well.
Okay, so let me break this down. This is going into an interesting space. There are people who love life. They go through life without too much that hassles them.
Yeah.
They aspire towards an end, but it doesn't kill them if they go off the the straight and narrow
Sure,
off and
the
on
beaten
and
track,
experience
yeah.
new things. There are other people for whom, and nothing wrong with it, I must
Yeah.
qualify.
There is no wrong or right, yeah.
There's no wrong or right. I mean, for them, there is no second best.
Yes.
Okay? I'm either the best or not at all. And that drives them, motivates them very, very
Good one.
fiercely. Okay?
Yeah.
Which is sometimes misunderstood.
Yeah.
But I must say, if I can jump into this conversation, that I prefer that. I tend to be that kind of person.
Right.
Where if I'm going for something, I want to go for it 100%.
Yeah.
Or not at all.
Yeah.
And I believe, while I know that someone does stand second and third and fourth and so on and so forth, I believe it's about being the best at
Yeah.
what you do.
That's what you said. At what you do is the key.
Right. Right.
It might end up being the very best of all, or it might not be the very best of all, and just the best that you can be. And that's good enough. You just have to do the best you can.
Right.
The idea is to compete with yourself.
Right.
Always. And be better than what you have been. And give it, it's even when I went to Miss World, right? Exactly what you said. I'm someone, whatever I do, I will turn every stone over. So when I look back, Brian, I should not think, oh my God, if I don't succeed in what I'm doing, I shouldn't think, oh my God, maybe had I turned that stone over. Regret is the worst emotion you can
Sure.
ever have in your life.
But you must
Ever.
learn from the past.
Always. That's why I remember my past.
Right.
I learn from it, and it humbles me and it keeps my feet on the ground. And if you don't learn from the past, that cycle is going to keep happening in different ways
Sure.
and coming back
Sure.
till you correct it, till you break that. Have to learn from the past.
Okay, again, another interesting thing. I know that you do a bit of motivational training.
Yeah.
Right? Tell us a little bit about that, because you are deep, you are convicted, and I think an obvious path to take would be to train, to do motivational training.
Right.
A little bit about.
I think it really helps my position because it's unique, my story of literally like a Cinderella story. It helps because the first thing people look at us and go, we cannot be any of us, and you're different, and it's almost like we're born with a silver spoon. And I go, no, I'm not. I've jumped over mories in Metugoda with bare feet, and I've had holes in my shoes. I've had to sacrifice between a sandwich and bus fare for dinner, or if I took the bus, I'd had to forfeit dinner, and if I had the sandwich, then I'd have to walk 3 kilometers when I was 14 years old. And so I come from where whatever you tell me, I connect with it. You talk to me about depression, I can connect with it because I've been there. I've sat for days, weeks on end with tears just streaming down my face, not thinking, not wanting to have anybody around me, because I've been there, So when people realize that you empathize with them as opposed to sympathize, they will listen. They listen better, because when I speak, I don't go, I'm in a superior position.
Right.
That's the worst way you can interact with someone to connect with them. And I tell them this is what I've been through. So if whatever you've been through, we're ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances. That's all we are.
That's fantastic.
And with everything that I have been through, if you can take something from my experiences and it can help you, why not? My family, like my brother, was not very happy when I'd say that I dropped out of school and my parents split up. My relatives weren't happy about it. They're like, why do you have to tell people? Why do you have to wash, your in public, right? And I was like, if it helps one person, so what? Does it change my history? It doesn't. We're human, and if it can help somebody, it's a purpose served. Why not?
Tell me, Diana, I mean, right through this chat you've been sharing, and with all of that sharing, I'm sure there are many, many, many people that will hold on to a lot of what you've said and learn from it. But is there anything specific that you'd like to strongly share or tell the world? I know it's a cliched.
No, I hear you. I mean, yeah, we get asked this very often. I get asked, do you want to say something? But in the vein of our conversation, following through with that, I'd say we have issues like women in India, right? I know how hard I've had to work, and I campaign a lot for women empowerment.
Right.
And breast cancer awareness and everything that I can. And I'm very pro-woman and pro-child. And the first thing I say is, I love men, but I'm all about, don't get me wrong, I'm pro-woman, pro-child. But you got to make it clear, right?
Impossible.
But the reason is because women need to start believing that much more in themselves. We've come a long way. We've still got a long way to go. And you know what? It's not just India, Brian, because you've got so many places around the world. If you go to Britain, there are small cities, or even in London, there are, you know, families that are very that have very similar situations
Sure.
where women are abused, women lack confidence, and just everywhere, as much as we can, we need to believe in ourselves.
Okay.
Not just women, everybody, but especially women. And I'd say taking a leaf out of my book or anybody's book that, you know, you have successful people like Madonna. I will never forget, I read her autobiography and she said, I worked so hard, and if I can do it, you can. And that's what I say as well. Everybody who has achieved something, you hear them saying, if I can do it, you can. And it's not because it's easier for us to say because we've achieved it. We didn't sit there
Right.
and achieve it. We worked really hard. Most of us have. So what I would say to those watching this show is, if I can do it, you can.
A quick word on, you know, I know that you work with a lot of organizations that do good. And I think it's important that we share it with, you know, with people who will be watching this. And what are the results that you've got out of it? It could be personal results that you've got out and richness that you've kind of acquired, or it could have been stuff that you contributed. But I know for a fact, and I do not wish to speak for you. I'd like for you to just quickly take us through some of the stuff you've been involved with.
You know, when I started, it was at Miss World, prejudging. What people don't realize is prejudging of Miss World is very, you know, it's very heavy duty. Every judge interviews every single girl,
Right.
and they get an idea of your personality, how you think, how you communicate, can you handle the world press, you know, and situations that you'd get thrown into. And I remember one of my judges was Lou Gossett Jr., and he asked me in prejudging, he said, if you win Miss World, which charity would you give your prize money to? And I was like, no charity. My prize money would be mine. Yeah, and I would, you know, I'd spend it on my family, my friends, such a 24-year-old, on my family, my friends, and, you know, whatever I want to. But I said, the charity work, I understand Miss World does so much charity work, I would do that to the best of my ability, you know. But my prize, and I ended again saying, my prize money's mine.
At least you were clear.
I was very clear. And sometimes it's a problem because I'm so clear about what I want to say that people can take offense. My charity work started because of Miss India and Miss World. Before that, we live in a country where you're living with poverty and wealth in the same street, and you get so desensitized almost to it, as sad as it is to say that. But I got so exposed with that, and Miss World especially works very closely with children. So most of my work as Miss World was charity work. And it just opened up another side of me, and I am so grateful because I am more complete because of that, you know. And I try not to sound very hoo-ha about it, because I am not one of those who is capable of giving up her life as much as I wish I could. I cannot give up my life and go and just take care of the needy, you know. I mean, maybe another lifetime when I am more selfless,
You've done stuff with
will I be able to do that.
Habitat for Humanity as well.
That is, I've done so many things that I've been so blessed to be able to do. One of the most beautiful things is building homes with Habitat.
Right.
And President Carter has got this Jimmy Carter Work project, and I've built with him on the houses he works on. And, you know, he and Rosalind are just so amazing. They are so advanced in age, and they work just like any of us. They are there drilling and hammering and cleaning and painting. The energy is so electrifying, it's tangible. And of all the charities that I do, I'd say building with Habitat for Humanity is one of my most passionate ones, because you're not just raising funds and, you know, giving funds, you are physically helping build. And the person who's going to own that house is building alongside you.
Right.
At the end of the build, you know, and we've got the experts guiding us as we're doing it. The 2,500 people who came from across the world for the President Carter project in Lonavala, and in 1 week we built, I think, 100 homes. Yeah, 100 or 200 homes in 1 week. 5 days. We had 1 week.
Wow.
We built it in 5 days. Brad Pitt came and built as well with us. And I've traveled the world, South Africa, New Orleans, LA. I've traveled all over and built with them.
I know.
And the feeling when, you know, each group that's set with a house to work on that house, we all hold hands at the end when the house is done. And we just say a few words. Whoever wants to speak, you cannot help but choke up. You know, you cannot. And I don't like expressing my emotion in public. So it's very difficult, you know. It's amazing.
You know what? We could go on and on.
I know we can, right? I'm sorry.
So, and happily so. My God, and happily so. But Diana, fantastic. I mean, you know, before I end, I must say, it's been a real pleasure. In fact, been a privilege knowing you over the period of time that I have.
Thank you. But I must say something before that. One of my fondest memories. Oh, you know what? Oh, I have to tell you this. And I can speak for Menas as well. I used to manage Menas. One of our fondest memories when I was managing Menas was when Brian and a couple of guys from his team, where were we? We were in some city in Pune or Baroda or something, and middle of the night at about 1 o'clock, we hear the sound of tuck, tuck on our window, right? So we opened the balcony door, and there was actually a balcony there. We opened the window, the French window, and we have these 3 boys standing below our balcony, all Romeo style, with a guitar, and they serenaded us while both of us stood on the balcony.
And you spawned our love.
Oh, yeah. Charmaine, hi Charmaine.
Well, that was fun, wasn't it?
That was, I think, we still, every time Menas and I meet, we still talk about that. Those were good days.
Those were good days, weren't they?
Beautiful, pure days.
Yeah. No agendas. It was
Yeah.
just go for it, have fun, do
Yeah.
what you think is right.
It was so innocent and pure and beautiful.
But the good thing is, Dan, and that's what I was saying, I think there are certain relationships that are real.
Yes.
And that are based on the real thing.
Yes.
Right? And I'd like to believe ours is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
I'd just like
It's stood the test of time, right?
Yeah, it has.
Yeah.
It's been, 300 years we've known each other? Thereabouts? 250?
My birthday's coming up. But
I'll be there. But thank you so much. Please stay the person you are.
I don't think I can change even if I wanted to, Brian.
That's a good thing. And thanks once again for telling us like it is.
I got to tell us like it is, right? Tell you like it is.
Pleasure. It's taken a fair bit for me to hold back and be halfway decent.
Brian is an incorrigible flirt, and the good thing is he's got full permission from Charmaine to be so.
Thank you, Diana. You've been fantastic.
Always a pleasure.
Much love.
Always.
Okay.
Perfect.